Hello, everybody. Lecture today is for week 13. The topic for this week is development and the American era. So here are the main points. First, we'll look at what we call military policy, policy and execution, and how the government, run the regime or the government, under the military. Okay, so this is going to be the first really military dominated Thai politics and government. Okay, and next we'll look at the role of the government, extending what we call nation state. Okay, this is the concept about the modern nation state. Okay, now how it's gonna try to extend, the role and the concept of the nation. Okay, and the last will be the important topic on the monarchy. So this regime under Sarit regime, we will see how Sarit government enhanced, promoted the monarchy. Okay, so what we call monarchy resurgent, that means, revival, the institute of the monarchy, and especially the role of the king, Ramadanai, King Bhumibol. Okay, so and the key government policy for this period was development. In Thai,การพัฒนา Okay, the word พัฒนา you will be hearing every day, everywhere. People talking about, how to develop this, to change this, to move this, to make it better in progress. Okay, so this idea and concept started with Sarit Thanarat. Okay, after this coup d'etat. And you will see the government policy for this time will be different from the previous governments under PD Pibun, because this time the Thai government was advised and funded by World Bank. So World Bank is, the biggest investment, in the world, and run under the direction of the United States of America. So most of the World Bank, the president always Americans because it's appointed, by the American government. And also, development policy of Sarit also advised and supported strongly by U.S. government. All right, so let's see. Now we're gonna move, to the detail of the two coup, how this coup happened. Because it was quite interesting, it's different from any previous coup in the past or even in the future, there is no coup like Sarit. Okay, you heard last lecture that he first made the coup in September, 1957, against people, and so chased people and power, see, and out of the country. But then, he let the government, run elections, has parliament open, and then government came after, election, but he wasn't satisfied with the performance of the parliament, which still have many parties, from left-leaning socialists or pro-labor, farmers, so many, that not because Sarit by that time, also close to American, listening to American, Pentagon advice about, fighting communism, So that's why, any progressive ideas, movement, always, sound like, here, see the communist coming. Okay. All right. So, so that's why he was very concerned about political situations inside and outside the country. Okay. in the country, socialist parties, from northeast, northeastern provinces always, stronghold of, opposition to Bangkok government. Okay, from King Chulalongkorn period down to Pibun, he killed 4 of the MPs and ministers from Isan. Okay, so now the new generations came again, they left leaning. Okay, also in Bangkok, many newspaper magazine, also adopted, progressive, radical, left, many kind, they're not the same, but they all call for changes. They want government to do this, do that. Because the end of Pibun era, we already saw, conflicts that happening everywhere in the country and outside the province. Okay, so this also another concern for Sarit. Okay, and the last one was, the army now could not control parliament. Okay, idea of Sarit is if he made a coup, that means, the army under his control should be able to instruct, to tell the parliament, the member of parliament, what to do. And he also set up his party, so he has his party under his control. But the same thing, with political party, you cannot discipline or force the member of parliament who elected from the people, to say what you want or to vote on what bills. Okay, according to the army. No, the politicians want to say something to the people, in response to people's ideas and wants. And that the Thai province always poor, always need more help, need more money from the parliament. So the government party finally divided inside the party, very disunited. Okay, so that's why Sarit was very upset. Okay, last, okay, these people, this group, this movement, start to criticize U.S. role in Thailand and in Southeast Asia, because it's clear by 1958 that USA gonna come to dominate Asia, especially Southeast Asia, because the Vietnam War, including now expanding into Indochina, Laos and Cambodia, are gonna be dragged into this war of independence, resistance, and gradually will become war under the communist parties. Okay, most of the independent parties started with independence idea, not communist. Okay, not radical. They just want independence. But in the end, the idea of communism, will always penetrate it and become dominant, because communist members always, smarter. They know how to handle situation, know how to mobilize support from the people, labor, farmers, peasants, small scale business people, So that's why, but now they look at the US role and they said, no, US is going to become the imperialist power. That means the superpower in Asia. And that's not good for the people. Okay, so they criticize U.S. role in Thailand. Okay, but the next thing, after criticizing USA, the left movement also start to look at China. China now is communist China. It's not Republican China like in 1911. China became what we call in that time red China. Red, yellow is the color for the Communist Party. Okay, so red China is very scary for Thai government, for Thai police, Thai army, and USA. American Thailand also did not like the situation of the left people. So what to do? Sarit got very ill from his drinking. He drank a lot. Okay, so his liver, suffer. Okay, got some kind of have to time to do surgery. So he went to do surgery in the #1 hospital in USA, Walter Reed Military Hospital in Washington. Okay, So why he had traveled so far to the USA? I don't know, but we can guess that means American Pentagon probably invited him, to take a good care in America, because then he can meet and talk with Eisenhower and Dulles, the foreign minister of the USA, and then start to make plan, for Thailand in the future. Okay, so what was the plan? Okay, and then Sarit went to recuperate in London before come back to Bangkok. He stayed a couple months in London. There he met with senior Thai government officials, former ministers of economic affairs, foreign affairs, cultural ministry, Luong Vichit. Okay, you remember the name because we talk a lot. Luong Vichit was the main advisor, close advisor to Pibun on cultural policy and nationalist ideas. Okay, now Luong Vichit gonna come switch from Pibun because Pibun fell from power. Vichit moved, see a good the businessman, okay, move his loyalty now to Sarit. So he went to meet Sarit in London. Okay, and some politicians and some business merchants, probably went to see, meet and talk to Sarit. Okay, all right, and then so he came back to Bangkok in October. He met and consulted with Thanom, General Thanom, okay, number 2 of the army, He was that time prime minister because his party, Sarit party, always dominate the parliament. So they're able to put Thanom into the prime ministership, and then they agree that, okay, it's time, to take over the government. Okay, no more parliaments, no more politicians. They talk too much. Okay, and then, so this is the unlike any coup, because Sarit told Thanom, who was the prime minister of the government that time before, that he gonna launch the coup. Okay, get ready. Of course, Thanom, number 2 to Sarit, he just accepted. Okay. So on October 20th, Thanom resigned from the government, resigned from prime minister. That means the whole cabinet have to resign at 3 p.m. that afternoon. All right. Okay, so now there was no government. Okay. That evening, Sarit made a coup. Okay, so he took his power, my army out, and announced on the radio and occupied the government house, at 9 p.m. No decision, no any, opposition, no criticism, no whatsoever. And everyone quiet. Okay, partly because they knew beforehand, so they make sure that no one gonna make trouble for Sarit to that night. All right, so the coup went smoothly. Okay, so that's why the U.S. State Department in America mean foreign affairs in Thai or in European system. Okay, State Department issued the statement said that, oh, this not a coup, because coup is always bad, but it's a readjustment of the leaders, who already control, the government, which is true, it's that. I mean, it's almost like, a coup against themselves, like people silent coup against themselves in 1951. So this time, so it meant under the coup against Thanom, which is subordinate anyway. So yeah, so the coup is not against another government, but against their own government. Okay. So only in Thailand that you have this, kind of, like a very unique, coup d'etat. Okay, it's not fighting, not against one against the other, or want to change this and that. No, it simply but take over the government, and then so that you can make your policy, make something that you want the people to follow, or to the government to execute. Okay, all right, so next we're going to see the main reason that Surrey told the press, okay, after he talking about this and that, number one reason he cited, always many reasons, corruption, politician inefficient, they make trouble in the parliament, in the government, in same as like nowadays. You watch the parliament in Bangkok and the government. The same thing happened those days. The last reason was now there was serious communist threats from outside. That means Chinese communists try to penetrate, try to send support, to send their communism into Thailand, okay, and then inside the Thai peasant, to be communist, and students, intellectuals, newspaper, already, work, following the communist, blah blah blah. Okay, so this is probably the first time that the reason for make a coup, was against external threat. Okay, not mainly from inside, not because of student protest or conflict in the country or disaster, happen, by national, disaster or something, no, but it was outside threat, and that threat, is communism, and people, already, heard a lot propaganda from government, through the USA, support this propaganda, leaflet and literature, so everywhere, from university to school, people heard about, how bad is communist, and the worst communist now is China. So in that time, China was a country that no one in Thailand, want to be friends. You cannot go to China. You cannot talk to Chinese people. So Chinese, the Sino-Thai Chinese descendants who live in Thailand, also have a difficult time in the Soviet era, because Thai people will look at them like, hey, you are maybe close to Chinese communism. Okay, that's another threat. Okay. All right. So after he set up, these, reasonable, basic, for that, okay, if you build the ghost, you have the ghost outside the country, the ghost coming down on Thai people, Now it's easy for the government to issue your orders, okay? You can do anything in order to save the country, save the people from the bad ghost Chinese communist, okay? First, abolish the constitution. Okay, the first, casualty, of this coup, always, the constitution. To see, so that's why, constitution always, have to be rewritten, because it's been revised, it's been torn down and rewrite, and then burn down, and then, abolish this of so many times. We have only 18, constitutions now. Okay, so. But you have to abolish it, because constitution is the main power, the source of power for any government. So if you still have the constitution, you cannot issue your order. Government cannot do on your own. You have to do according to the constitution. Okay. And actually, to make a coup is already against the constitution. So any coup makers always, was criminal under the constitutional law. So, but who gonna prosecute them? Because they have the power, they have the guns, okay? So that's why they abolish, and no one can resist or deny, until now, now I think that the protest by the student and people, free people movement now, they want people's constitution because they knew that the coup drafted constitution, was not the real one, it's the fake one. Okay, all right, we're back to Sirleaf. So he abolished constitution, then he starts order using they call the coup group revolutionary group. Okay, Khana Patiwat in Thai. That's only first group, the first coup party that called themselves revolutionary party or group. Okay, because they don't have a name. Okay, until 1976, the coup group will decide name, like peace loving committee council, or this one, the National Council for Peace and Order, but Sirleaf have no name. So that's why he think I'm gonna make a real change like a revolution. So call my party Revolution, okay, party. So that party issued a law called Revolutionary Law. In Thai we call Prakat Khana Patiwat. Actually, it's the announcement of the caretaker government, okay, and that's amounted to law, okay. So you don't need parliament to issue laws, okay. No need to have king countersign. The head, the chair of the party, revolutionary group, can sign your own law, okay. So Sirleaf regime issue, 200 to 300 order, and became law that governed Thailand for the next, I think, until 1973. That start, to revise and dissolve, all the revolutionary orders because it's illegal. It did not pass through the normal procedure of parliament. Okay. All right. So, and next, dissolve parliament. So kick out all the member of parliaments from the Senate and the MP. Okay, all out. Okay, and then abolish political party act. Okay, that means no more parties, no politicians. Okay, and then declare martial law all over the country. This is also new. Yeah. The previous coup might declare some kind of emergency law, but mainly in Bangkok. Okay, and a few days, But Sirleaf declare martial law. Martial law usually you declare during wartime. Okay, you're fighting in World War I, World War II, So you need to support everywhere. You have to order right away, cannot pass the parliament. So that's why, we call martial law, But this is no war. This is just take over the government and no fighting happen. No one resists you. So why do you need martial law? The reason, because they did not want any protest, don't want demonstration against, don't want people to criticize them. So that's why they have this law come after martial law that no gathering of people more than 5. Okay. So if you have the meeting, you have a talk in the group in the auditorium, you cannot have more than 5 people, because if you stay 5 people above more than 5, the police can come in and arrest you. Okay. And next, no to labor strike and protest. This is the big opposition group, labor movement, labor unions. So that's why Sirleaf said no, stop everything. No strike, no protest, no negotiation with the employers. Okay, you have to stay quiet. So that's why he abolished labor law. So there would be no labor law for a long time. Okay. So this also started in the period that you will see in the future that Thai labor union is very weak. Even until now, Thai labor is still weak. Yeah, not very effective in that organization because they always abolish. Okay. And the next very important move was the government arrested, hundreds of people, mainly the journalists, intellectuals, politicians, activists, all kinds of activists, social, cultural, labor leaders, and students, especially from Thammasat students, because they were active in all kinds of activities. Yeah. So put them in jail, or including the famous soon to be very famous figure, Jit Pumisak. Okay, Jit Pumisak was the graduate from Faculty of Arts, okay, Chulalongkorn, okay, and he also was punished. Yesterday was his anniversary of his punishment in Chulalongkorn for the editing, the journal of 23rd October, the anniversary of King Chulalongkorn's death, and Jit Pumisak made a progress radical, publication. But people, the other faculty, students, condemned, said that his, articles and the magazine, really left socialist or even communist. So that's why they push him from the stage and then throw him down the floor, broke his back, I think, yeah. Okay. So yesterday, what the art student at Jula, make an apology, to Jit Pumisak yesterday. Sorry. Okay, so that's the effect of the coup of Sarit Thanarat, that the atmosphere in Bangkok by that time, and over in other provinces too, the dark cloud, of dictator, coming over to Thailand. This is new because the people was not dictator, he used his power in many ways, and power used his police to massacre, kill, opposition, but the whole government, still, operate under certain rule of law. You have to have laws, okay, not your order. So it was the first time to use his own power as law, okay, and change and do everything, that considered to be the complete dictator. Okay, so now we have dictator in Thai politics coming in, okay. That's why the next move is close down about 50 newspapers and magazines all over the country, mostly in Bangkok, and Chinese newspaper, okay. And then if the paper published, they have to get review approved from the police, special police, special branch, Santiban police, and have to look at your headlines, your columns, your news report. And they instructed, police instructed newspaper that you have to report Prime Minister in the good pictures, good move, good policy, okay? You cannot use bad pictures on him, okay? Totally propaganda, okay? This is like a Nazi or communist country, yeah. I mean, like North Korea, okay? Every newspaper and TV, have one same picture, smiling, Kim, Kim Jong-un, okay? So that's how Solid practice his government, okay? So Thailand, lived under strict martial law for 3 months, okay? Nothing, okay, ever spoke, nothing criticized, nothing show up. You almost, you look out, like nothing happened, okay? Business as usual. People go to work, go to shop, go to movies, okay? Like nothing, okay? Because only politicians, only intellectuals that arrested and put in jail, okay? But other people, you just perform your life as normal, okay? All right, so that is New Thailand, okay? And then to show his power and also to scare people, okay? So it executed 4 arsonists, that time, also now, they always, when the dry season came, a fire, always took place, in the factories, in condominiums, in housing, or in markets, or in low area, that no good security, So it went to, supervise, the fire, the accident, and then in order to show his, charisma, charismatic leader, he said, told the police, go and arrest the guy who started the fire. Okay, because rumor always said, oh, there's someone who came, to start the fire, to make, disorder in Bangkok or in this area, and also, they always think that there's communist spy, everywhere. And police go and arrested, some, lunatics or some, people, they always arrested someone, and so it will show that, okay, executed now, shot the guy dead, okay, at the site of the fire. The newspaper took the picture and then published in headline tomorrow. I mean, this psychological warfare, make people very scared, very afraid of the government, afraid of the army. Because you're afraid, then you have to obey. Anything the government said, you have to follow. Okay, no arguments. And in order to make this legal, so that cited Article 17. Okay, I'm gonna talk next. Okay, Article 17 gave the so-called absolute power to the prime minister in time of crisis, disorder, civil war, or government cannot control the situation. Then the prime minister can issue any order in order to stop that incident or conflict. So after the revolution in 1932, absolute power of the king, is gone. But this time, it came back, in the name of the new law under the Sarit regime, gave Sarit, the prime minister, army commander, to have absolute power like the king in the past. Okay, and the last one to show off his tough policy, Sarit abolished opium smoking. Okay, so opium smoking was a long, practice in Siam, from King Rama III, down, because opium smuggle, and opium from triangle, in the border Thai, Laos and Myanmar, and those who smuggle opium away to police. Okay. So everywhere in Bangkok, you have opium dens, and the people smoke opium, and World Health and Audit, and this ban, smoking, of opium, this is the narcotic, this is the drug, worse than any drug that time, So we have to get rid of it. So Mr. Accepted that, okay, we're gonna follow the Western model, get rid of opiums, dens, and smoking, and he burned down, the opiums and the pipes, okay, of the opium at Sanam Luang one day, make a big headline, so people said, wow, Sarit is the tough leader. Okay, all right. Now next, we see, the new thing that happened here. In order to govern, you have to have constitution. If you look back in the past, for coup 1947, it takes less than a week, to present it with the new temporary constitution we call the Red Jar Constitution. Okay, and then have the convention to write a real constitution later. Okay, so any coup, in the past, always, and a few days, came with some kind of constitution, Sirleaf was the first coup leader who did not care about the real constitution. So he said, I just need some kind of law allow me to govern before writing constitution. Okay, take long time to write that one. So give him a one that give more power to. So the Thai lawyers, the judicial, experts, actually this one we call the first charter in Thai we call Thammanun Kanpakong, charter or temporary, constitution, the highest law. Okay, the copy from France during the World War II and resistance and the problem in France, so de Gaulle, used this special law. Okay, so the Thai as a copy, from France, So 28 January 1959, this new charter with 20 articles came, and Sulik gonna use these 20 articles, as his, small constitution to govern the country. Okay, and according to this charter, allow the government, will appointed, constitutional assembly, the member 240 member to write a new constitution and to approve the government law in the meantime. Most of the members of this constitution assembly came from so-called, government officials, high-ranking, civilian and military. But look at the number. The army commanders took 104 seats in the 240. Almost half came from the army and police and armed force, navy. So I think almost 200 members, came from military, about 40 from the government officials, and then a few ex-politicians who sided with Sirleaf. No representative of the people, no other people, involved in this writing. Okay, and then come to Article 17, which give absolute power to the Prime Minister. Now, if you compare, with this government now, this government also issue a kind of revolutionary order, before they have a real constitution. That also 50 articles, more than 20. Okay, more than, sorry, they have around 50, But that also has Article 44 that allow, this Prime Minister have absolute power to issue any order, So that's why he can transfer this Mr. A to inactive office and promote Mr. B, to be director, demote Mrs. A, no responsibility, no transparency, no accountability, you cannot sue. Because after this, and this law will say amnesty, to the coup government. Everything that the government did will not held responsible by the new law. Okay. Now, this charter allow government officials to hold political positions. Now, if you remember, the Pibun Constitution 1952, he did not allow officials to hold political positions and private business positions. Okay, government officials have only one position. Okay, or otherwise you have to resign. So that's why Sirleaf, resigned from government, from cabinet. This time, Sirleaf, said, we're gonna have everything under our, hands, in our hand. So they put their generals, to sit in many, government agencies and state enterprises, and including, private business. Okay. So this is what Sirleaf called revolutionary regime, ระบอบปฏิวัติ Okay. So what kind of revolutionary? Okay, look at here. The assembly, start really working on constitution, in the next 2 years. So after it started in January, 59, they didn't do anything. They just approved the law by the government, the military government, or do some other things, Until March 1961, the assembly, reminded, oh, we have to do constitution. Okay, let's start drafting constitution. Okay, 2 years after set up the assembly. So that's why people don't trust the parliament to draft a new constitution, because drafting constitution in Thai history is the last means ploy the government used to delay finishing up the constitution. Okay. And next, look at the cabinet. Also the same thing, mainly from military and senior government officials. No representatives of the people, no expertise on anything, The government run by pure military officers. Okay. So Sirleaf became the prime minister. He also was army commander and supreme commander and also director of the police, chief of the department. All right. Finally, he abolished elections all over the country, municipal or local government, or what any form of local government, self-government, direct or indirect, no more. Okay. All right. So this is starting of the revolutionary regime under Sirleaf. Okay. Now we're going to look at this military polity. Okay, the so-called strongman, and the name that later the political scientists call Sirleaf regime as despotic paternalism. Okay, no more revolutionary regime. He is a despot. Despot is a kind of a dictator. Okay, paternal is the fatherly. Okay, so he's the father of the dictator. Okay. All right. So let's look at how this polity, okay, work. You have to credit the U.S. role. Without the U.S. involvement in Thailand, it might be difficult for Sirleaf, to conceive and really establish his military polity, because the U.S. gave aid because of the advice and money, especially money. Funding is very important for government to run, or for coup maker, and also to try to hold on to your power. You need a lot of money. Okay. So U.S. back up, and then build up this military, and then allow the military to persuade businessmen and loyalists, which in the past always conflicting among with one another. Okay, but this time military, business, and loyalists came to make an alliance. Okay, they able to join hands, look like they united, because U.S. told him, that you have the most serious, enemy, looking at you. That's a communism. Okay, so that's why we have to be united to fight against, your external threat. Okay, so overall, their belief and their hope of the new Thailand, gave them the vision of a dictatorial strong state. Okay, the vision, we look at the vision of PD, vision of people, they want Thailand to be what shape, Now, solid vision of Thai state, is a kind of dictator, strong state. Okay, strong state and not strong people. Okay, make state strong. That means the government, the military, bureaucracy, must be strong. Okay, must be happy. Okay, must have a lot of money. But what about society? About the people? No, it's not in this vision. This vision had nothing to do with the people. Okay, but indirectly, they have this policy that we talk about. We're gonna go into later. Development. This is the American instruction to Thai government. You have to develop the country. What does it mean? Developing, development. That means making progress, improve physical conditions, transportation system, okay, economic production. You have more factories, have more manufacturing, more market, more export, and more import. Okay, before you can export, you have to import a lot too. Okay, so in order to achieve development, the leader of the government must unite. You're going to have unity in order to achieve development. So that's why allow business loyalists and army commanders believe that if they all stay together in a unity, they will be able to push the country towards developmental goal. And according to the American dreams, okay, you don't have to go to America. You can have American dream in Thailand. Okay, because Hollywood came to Thailand, came to Bangkok in cinema theaters. Okay, so everyone know about American dream. That you can have more to boost, more to cars, have the better luxury food, shopping malls, the transportation good, everything looks good, Okay. But you have to believe in, your enemy. So if you don't afraid of the enemy, your spirit fighting might not be strong. Okay. So that's why, this the military policy of Sri, was very, tough on, the communist threat. Okay. So that's why government jailed and executed people under this alleged accusation as communist. They found so many communists. But if you really know what is communism, you will know that it's not easy to become communist. Okay, a real communist. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so next you look at this the what we call the strongman. That means the military leader. Okay, with absolute power. Okay, the generals now start to abuse of power. Okay, in a few years, after having all this power, the military, leaders start to abuse their power, okay, by making everything for their benefit, interest, self-interest, promote their own group interest, but not distribute, evenly, this benefit to other group, other people. So that's why, soon, this so-called, alliance, of the business loyalists and army, will be undermined, will not be strong, will not stay together. Soon they're gonna disrupt it. Okay. And also, the government have to subordinate to U.S. policy. So that also undermine, business people, undermine the loyalist version of their dream or what they want, okay. Because the U.S. policy, they want to export everything to Thailand. But the Thai business people also want to protect their own business in the country. So they don't want, import, cheap from America, and they cannot compete with their production. Okay. So soon we're gonna see what happening in Thai political economy. This term hasn't been used at that time. This is the term that used later, especially used with Marcos in the Philippines, because crony capitalism. Okay, crony capitalism means your friend, your close friend, your clique, your faction, who dominated this capitalism. Okay, so crony is you just share your benefit among your close friends. Okay, so I use it because I think Sarit practice is very likely the same with crony capitalism of Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines, also in 1970s, a bit later than Sarit 10 years. Okay, this is how they did. Okay, so the generals form companies to supply goods to government agencies. For example, in construction company, insurance company, in import export, repair road, mining, or bidding to do any project for the government. Those companies actually were formed by the generals or family, cousins of the generals. They always patronage company. So it's no fair bidding or buying or selling. Okay, everything under the instruction of the generals. Okay, and next, the government with power, they also exploited natural resources. Okay, logging was the first produced by close down the forest and allow the company to go cut down the trees, take the good wood and then export it to outside. Okay, sometimes they build dams. Okay, so they have to close down big forest area, and even sometimes flooded the whole village, the whole many villages in order to build a reservoir for agricultural irrigation. Okay, and all the woods go to the general's company. Okay, selling for their benefit. Land grab mean they claim lands, okay, unused lands or the deforest land, will those government officials, military, will have opportunity to grab the land first. Okay. Okay, so we look at another role, how exploited natural resources come under this military government. Okay, so land and forest and water, all kind of resources, were under direct exploitation by the so-called crony capitalism of the period. Okay. Okay. Next, we look at another picture of how the country look like now. Okay. Okay. You are going to see how this regime, exploit U.S. aid. Okay. And also how they deal with the Thai communities. This is going to be like an economic scene of under Thai, dictator government. Okay, so the generals took cuts on arms purchases. This is the normal practice, I think, that started under Sarit, and continue, I believe, until nowadays. That any arm purchase, always, the commission, paid to the generals who oversee, the department, the ministry, or the regulations. Okay, so this is the the normal, that a little, corruption going on with arms purchase. And arms purchase are the huge amount of money, okay? It's always 100 million baht up, okay? All right, so next, now, that the U.S. troops, come to fight in Vietnam. So the American troops need to rest, okay? R&R, rest and recreation, to have fun, outside the battlefields in Vietnam. So they came to Bangkok and Pattaya and New Petbury Road. Okay, these are the areas that became, the hotspot for American, servicemen to come to rest. Okay, now the military, generals, ran travel agencies to handling, R&R, very clever. Okay, instead of let the basic private person, do traveling, no, it ran under, the army control. Okay. And next, they ran transport company ferrying, military cargo. Okay, because the U.S. have to move their goods, weapons, supplies, all over the country from Bangkok to northeast, to the north, to the south, wherever they need to go. So the big transportation happening here. You can imagine any company, who got the business with this scam, with this scheme, you make a lot of money. Okay, of course, it always end up with the generals. Okay, so next, the army patronized major business families in return for shares and directorships. All of the big business, almost the Sino-Thai business, Bangkok Bank, Kasikorn Bank, Sri Ayutthaya Bank, and Thai Insurance, name it, any, of these, Chinese families, they all, get support from the generals, especially starting from Soviet regime. And they give shares in their companies to the generals. And then some directorship in their company, sit in the board of the company. So General Prem, sit in the board of Bangkok Bank, I think until almost when he died, 80 years old, okay. Okay, look at it. Surit sat on 22 company boards, okay, all kind of, business, okay, you name it, 22. Prapat Jarusathien, General Prapat, Ministry of Interior, okay, and later going to be Deputy Prime Minister under Thanom. He sat on 42 company boards, okay. So you can see, why, Thai business always, subservient, to government, to politics. They will never criticize, they'll never, protest or say anything against the government policy, even though, it's bad. But they just wait for their return, okay? So no competition, okay? Thai business always, monopoly, okay? Now, this is interesting. This also happened only to Sarit, not to other generals, okay? Okay, besides, took executive positions in state enterprises, the general also took honorary posts in sports and social organizations. I think probably only in Thailand that, Olympic committees, Thai boxing committees, promoting the bicycle, promoting, a martials, a sport or anything, the president have to be the generals. General so and so, or even retired generals, the retired police chief, all of them went to be the president of the boxing and the Olympic sport or anything, all the time. Okay, because this organization need money, need support. And if your head, is former generals, who are gonna deny, giving you support? All right. But also, more than that, it's really a patronage system, that they need some honor, okay? After retirement, they cannot sit at home, raising their grandchildren. So they have to go out, to show off, their power and whatever they have, So to be president of any sport clubs, organizations, give them, the feeling of honor, okay? Now, power always comes with sex. Sex always comes with power, okay? And Tserit was the one who completed this, saying, he has the most power, and he also has the most desire for sex, okay? And that time he promoted, we call the beauty queen contest, okay? Wachela Wood contest, beauty contest, Miss Thailand contest, Miss Universe, Miss whatever, all of these queens have to come to see Tserit in whatever time that he requests, okay? So it became, after his death, the news broke out, and like 50, former beauty queens, came out, and some, you have to return your asset because they're illegal, He gave everyone who came to see him, new, sport cars, new Mercedes, new Beamers, okay, BMW. The BMW is, awarded to the most favorite beauty for him. Okay, yeah. So that's that's a practice. Okay, and but popular news at that time. Okay, so after his death, the review, that Tserit's asset total is 2.8 billion baht at that time. So 2.8 billion baht at that time amounted to 30% of national budget. Okay, the country budget, 30% went into personal wealth. Okay, so how generals make money? Even nowadays, the Thai generals always pocket, 100 times, more than the salary in the whole life salary, and you ask them, how on earth you make that much money? No answer. Okay. Okay, next we look at the, because in our history, from 1932 revolution, the so-called constitutional monarchy, was and is, the goal of the revolution. So in order to create democracy, we're going to have constitutional monarchy. Okay. Now look at Tserit policy and practice. And he is everything against the so-called constitutional project, the idea from People's Party in 1932, until people, still hang on to, the project of the 1932, try to carry on parliamentary, have election, have representatives, have, rule of law, justice and law, whatever, that been said, no. So it disregard everything on that way, okay? So military policy against constitutional project from 1932 in every way. He denied people's participation, no parties, no elections, no whatever, the freedom of movement, of, ideas, of expression, everyone locked up in jail, okay, or put to death by his firing squad, okay. And then he argued that democracy that we practice, it didn't work because it was not suitable for Thailand. now I believe that he didn't write all of it by himself. I think there got to be some academics, some lecturers, who want to get favoritism with the government, special promotion. So help him write about this treaty on Thai democracy. They call democracy Thai style, ประชาธิปไตยแบบไทย. So every day, I remember, in that time, every day 5 o'clock in evening, the government radio station will read out, today's article, how to be democracy, how to vote, how to elect, how to behave in democracy, and end up, not like the so-called in other countries, democracy. And they call it, this is democracy Thai style. This only in Thailand that we can do this. So we have to promote this practice. Okay. And the next, after they denounce, the liberal democracy as non-Thai, un-Thai. Okay. So bad if you use the real democracy. So you have to make it not so democracy. So it will work in Thailand. So that's why he made himself to be the father of the nation. Okay, พ่อขุน in Thai we call พ่อขุน. Okay, this is the title that we gave to King Ram Khamhaeng in the history of Sukhothai era. This is the 13th century, okay, Thai state. So พ่อขุน was based on the Dhamma Raja, Buddhist, the righteous, the leaders or king, Buddhist king, okay. Or in Thai we can call paternal chief, พ่อขุน, okay. So he is the father of the country, and the people are children. That time people didn't think that this is the kind of scolding, the people, people were sound like, oh, very lovely, we have the prime minister as our father. Remember, this is before the king popularity became so widespread, because now, you cannot, the prime minister cannot claim to be the father, because father of nation now is the monarchy. King Ramadan IX was the first father of the nation, but that later, after Surit promoted the monarchy. But before he promoted, he promoted himself to be the father of the nation first, okay? And the people must obey, listen, don't argue, don't resist, don't make trouble, okay? So that's why, you can see now Thai people are very obedient compared to other countries. I think Thai people mostly, the most obedient citizen of the country. Okay, it started under Surit regime. Okay, all right. So you see that, this side, this is about Thai style democracy. Now on the other side, he also promoted the local mafia, tough guys. In Thai we call Nak Leng, or Platons. Okay, พ่อเลี้ยง in the north. พ่อเลี้ยง or Platons mean rich, okay, powerful figures in the local area. So this guy, will, spend money, everywhere, to get people to follow their orders, and okay, and they can do, they spend money with the government too. That's why, no police can arrest them. The government governors also listen to these patrons, okay. So everywhere, it's very provinces, you have the prominent, local mafia everywhere, because the government support them, okay. And these people made money from illegal trades and businesses. They make contracts, with government constructions, do liquor distribution, drugs, gambling, run girls, okay, prostitute everywhere in Thailand, starting from this area, this era. Gun running, okay, you can buy gun everywhere in Thailand, cheaper than, easier than buy, motorcycle, okay, and smuggle, okay, illegal goods from everywhere come to the country. Of course, without cooperation with the army, with the police, all these illegal trades could not conduct, okay, more than 1-2 years. But during those decades, the generals and the mafias, they all, pocket their profits, from all of these, businesses. Okay. All right. So you can see now, why, this constitutional project didn't work, because they want to support, the powerful figure and people, not the real people. Okay. Well, the next is, so in order to make the government, able to govern, okay, they have to extend, the role of the state. Okay, we have seen, from the past, like PD idea, economic policy, and his the investment and trade and commerce with other countries. Also, vision the state, have to make the role in order to improve or to make cooperative system work. And people also make the state to be the cultural symbol of the country, of the nation, make nationalism based on popular content. So now we look at the vision, the state vision of Surit regime. Okay. This time, Surit has a better chance than PD and people, because they have the so-called development project, given to him, by American money, American aid, and through World Bank. Okay, World Bank is the biggest, lenders, okay. So they have money, huge money coming into Thailand under the name development. Okay, you have to do development, otherwise you won't get that money. So of course they will have to do some kind of development, okay. But the way they did it, they went back to use the old colonial style centralized system. Okay. So people and PD, still want to extend, local self-government, municipal government, a school board, education in area, that help yourself, in order to improve, health, public education. But Surit regime, centralized, all this government system under Bangkok government, and ministry from Bangkok, have the tight, hands over, running this project. Okay. Centralized unity of the government make them, different from local culture. The more the government policy and personnel, became centralized, I mean, you have to dress exactly the same color, the same fashion, use the same language, the same tone, the same direction, the same literature, and the same goal of development, When in practice you go to the local provinces, they all different. They all have dissimilar, areas and cultural cultivation, Okay, so that's the first, conflict coming in, And then this development policy need new developments. So by this time, government created more government departments, 100 departments created and pushed them out into the country. They have to go out to operate your project in the province. Okay. So for the first time, Bangkok government reached out, very deep into the countryside. In the past, they went very slow. Okay, no roads, no rains, no trains, yeah. But this time, government can go much easier now, So in a way, this time, under Surit, the government able to supply more public goods like health, more seeds and fertilizer to farmers, birth control, irrigation, water for people, household, more roads. Okay. So during Soviet regime, the motto is, money is work, work is money. เงินคืองาน งานคือเงิน บันดาลสุข Okay. That means if you have work and you have money, you have work. So you have both of them, then you be happy. Okay. So I mean, if you look at the from outside, the picture, you see more like a statistic give you, okay, more production, more export, more roads, more hospitals, more school, So it means that Thailand is developed. So we become a developed country. Okay. But if you look deeper, you look underlying, what was the structure that support this development program, you will see that it's not the real structure of development. It's simply, personal gain, of this development policy. Okay. And then the reaching of the government to the country, to the people in the villages, they also, bring, people under their control. For the first time, Thai people have to carry a personal ID card. Okay. You require, for transactions with government officials. You go to the government, to get your certificates, to do business, to do apply anything, official, you have to have your personal ID. Actually, together with your house registration, ทะเบียนบ้าน บัตรประจำตัว and ทะเบียนบ้าน personal ID and house registration are the required documents for any Thai to dealing with government officers. You go to the office, if you don't have these two papers, go back home. You cannot do anything. Okay. So actually, it make it very slow, service, very, difficult, to get service from the office. Okay, because people lost their ID because their transaction, their name not in the house registration, not in exactly the same pronunciation, the same writing. So many difficulty of this one. But it make the government have a strict, close scrutinize over the population. They can see clearly who is who stay with whom, where you stay. Okay. On the positive side, now education also widespread, more education down to the villages. Okay. They have to open to school in every village. Okay. The idea is also they want to build this the same idea because they're afraid that communists will come and brainwash the Thai citizen, the Thai children. So the government has to make sure that no one can brainwash Thai children. Okay, so in every school now, they focus on Thaiism. They have to teach them, instead of learning and writing to have better knowledge. No, the government focus on, to be Thai, to love the nation, love the religion, and respect the king. Nation, religion, and king is the focus of Thaiism, okay, in every school. And then they have to buy Thai goods, love Thailand, and love to be Thai, live a Thai life, speak Thai, and esteem Thai culture. This is a Thai essence. You won't see any people, any country that try to tell their citizens to be American, to be Chinese, to be Greek, to be British, to be Australian every day, like Thailand. Okay, this is the only policy that every government, when they don't know what to produce, they just produce this Thaiism, okay, to be Thai. Yeah. Okay, so this is the era of national security, which they also brought more people under direction of the nation state. I showed you the picture of the people, the labor now demonstrate, and call for wage increase, give their justice to the system of employment. Okay, and the next one is an Hara textile factory. They protest. This is 1970s, 75. Yeah, okay. And the crash between the labor and the police. Okay, so the more that the government want to brought people under their control, they also felt the resistance of the government. Okay. Now the next thing is about the role of Buddhism, which is quite crucial. Okay. Now we look at Buddhism as development agency. Okay. Government sent out those called Dhammatut in Thai. In English, it's ambassadors of Dhamma. Dhamma is the righteous, okay, of the Buddhist text. Okay. Sent out to northeast provinces because this area notorious for communist infiltration. Insurgency started in northeast in 1964. Okay, the fighting started. So they have to kind of calm down. To send the Buddhist monk to be ambassadors. To tell them to do what? To organize villagers in development project instead of teaching Dhamma or the Buddhist text. They teach them to do worldly activities, teach them to know the laws, and then discourage communism. Okay, don't listen to communist propaganda. Okay, you have to scare about communism. Okay. So this time, politics and religion are united against the different wills and ideas. Okay, so you see that Thai politics now divided, between left and right, and the right always used the king and religion, now mostly Buddhism, to fight against the opposition. So this kind of policy, no doubt, you can see the conflict and resistance, dissatisfaction from the people erupted in northeast, the north, among the hill tribes people, and in the south, the lower south, which is Pattani, Jala, and Narathiwat. So in Isan, you see, a local leader like Sila Wong Sing, and Krong Channa Wong, a teacher, former Free Thai movement member, but he turned left, ideology, and he also closer to the Communist Party, maybe member of the Communists too, So he was arrested, and executed, in 1961. Okay, by Surit, Okay. So that kind of, tough measure, against the left, the forced CPT, Communist Party of Thailand, adopted the so-called guerrilla warfare. That means, they have to take up arms to fight against government. They cannot fight peacefully in towns, because you cannot strike, you cannot protest peacefully. So they had to go out to the province and start using armed uprising in the province, starting from 1965. Yeah, okay. The guerrilla warfare, took place in Thailand. Okay, it will continue until Prem government 1983. I think that will stop that war. Okay, in the deep south, Hayu Sarong, I already mentioned last time, he also abducted and then forced to disappear by murder. Okay, in 1954, so led to the founding of the armed resistance called PURO, Pattani United Liberation Organization, in 1968. and other, BRN, the Burisan National Liberation, National, which they're fighting until nowadays. So the country, torn apart. When you have people who cannot resist, cannot work with the government, and did not obey the government now, and they also cannot, have any dialogue peacefully with the government. So they have to take up arms against the government. Okay, in the north, among the hill tribes, you have the Hmong hill tribes who stay there, for many years before. They left from Myanmar, from South China into northern Thai. But then, the government also suspicious that the Hmongs, also closer to the communist China. So try to pressure them, so they rebelled against the government forces, starting in 1968. So now, but the policy of, bringing more people under, direct control, also, backfire, So instead of make the country united, certain policies, began, to create a, division, and now, that they blame the South like a separatism, happen in the country, and they use arms, to fight against the government. Okay, up until now, communists, the Hmong rebellion stopped. Okay, communist rebellion also stopped in 1983. The Patani BRN still fighting. Okay, until now, not stopped. Okay. All right, so I think we come to the last slide now. Is this, this is the goal of the government. Imagine unity of a homogeneous nation. Okay, so under this, the despotic policy, military policy, the government, believe that, everyone obey, everyone, listen and practice the whole thing. So everywhere is unity now. Okay, homogeneous means, no differences. Everywhere, people speak Thai. Okay, loyal to the king, to the nation, to the religion. But actually, many local communities, recently annexed to Bangkok and subject to Bangkok direct control. Okay, they felt they belong to a different world from that imagined by the Thai state. They were provoked into re-examining and re-emphasizing their own very different identities. Okay, instead of believing the same like Bangkok vision, more and more local people, start to look into their own identities. The Malay Muslim in Pattani, Jalan, and Narathiwat, they want their own, practice, Muslim practice and Islamic practice. Want to learn Yawi language, speak Yawi at home, but they want to learn Thai. They not deny, they know that it is Thailand. They have to learn Thai, they have to use Thai language, but they also want to use Yawi language together. Why can't they use both? Okay. And in the North Hill tribes, want to have their own, culture and dress and dignity of the Hill tribes. Okay. Now, in a couple of years ago, they organized into the association, and they asked people, don't call them Hill tribes, Chao Khao. In Thai, we call Chao Khao. They said that word sounds discriminatory. Okay, doesn't sound good. So they want, to call themselves like indigenous people. Okay, Chon Pao. Okay, so now they have the Indigenous Day in the North. Every tribe come in, to promote one day, celebration. So this kind of, vision, cannot come from solid, despotic regime, a dictator regime, It had to come after, but before they come to this, they were suppressed, they were jailed, they were sent into the lowland to do the schooling with Thai kids, They suffer, many years under dictatorship and before finally, they are allowed to go back to their own identities. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this for now, and then we're gonna continue the next lecture. Okay, later. Okay, goodbye for now. Okay.